Welcome to Joy Unfiltered. I'm Rachel, and this is a podcast about joy. Not the shiny, performative kind. Not the everything happens for a reason kind. This is joy as a strategy. A way to stay steady when life feels loud. A way to stay human when things are hard. A way to lead, love, and live without burning out or checking out. Some episodes will be just me. Some will be honest conversations with people who have lived their way into a deeper, truer joy. No fixing, no bypassing, just real stories, real tools, and room to breathe. Let's get into it. Well, welcome back or welcome to Joy Unfiltered. I am Rachel, your host, and I am so excited to talk to today's guest. So we are just going to get right into it. I have with me today Kam. So Kam Knight is a coach, international speaker, and best-selling author of a dozen books in the areas of mental, emotional, and physical performance. He is known for bringing fresh solutions and insights that are a rare departure from traditional ideas, which I'm delighted to talk about today. Because of his fresh perspective, his books have become the gold standard for their topics, which have helped over, if I do the math right, is that over 500,000 people.
500,000 people.
When he is not coaching or writing, he is, which I love, traveling, having traveled to over 100 countries around the world. So welcome, Kam. I'm excited that you are here today.
Oh, thank you very much, Rachel. I'm really happy to be here and really excited to chat with you.
Good. Well, let's kind of start. I don't know necessarily start at the very beginning, but start a little bit, giving us some context. Would love to know kind of a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are, and then we are going to talk a whole bunch today about internal resilience.
Yeah.
Yay.
So
or resistance, sorry, which goes
yeah.
to resilience as well. But let's
related,
get to know a little bit more about you.
Exactly. So I'll talk a little bit about me. My name is Kam Knight, and I am a coach, international speaker, and author of a dozen books, many of which you see behind me in there, your mental, physical, and emotional performance that have sold over 500,000 copies and have over 10,000 ratings on Amazon now. So it's a good sign. And now I talk about a concept called internal resistance, and it answers a question I had my whole life, and that is, why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, and I have the motivation, desire to do it, but for one reason or another, I can't or don't do it. Now, at the time, there weren't really good answers that I came across. A lot of the answers revolved around beliefs, as if you have limiting beliefs, that will hold you back. And I think beliefs are a big part of it, but I always thought there was more to it. And over the last 15 to 20 years, that question always lingered in my mind. Every time I felt stuck, I wondered why. Why can't I get stuff done? Why do I keep spinning my wheels? Why don't I just do this dang thing so I can get the result that I want? And the more books I was reading, coaching I was doing, and seminars I was attending, the more I was learning about the complexities of the human mind and human behavior. And unknown to me, my mind was processing all that information. And at a certain point, I had this epiphany or aha moment where I was like, oh my gosh, there's a part of our brain designed to hold us back. There's a part of our mind built to keep us from growing and making progress. And I call this part resistance. And it's this brick wall that we hit anytime that we want to do something, but we can't, no matter how much we want to do it.
That I love. So many questions kind of right off the bat. But the first one is, clearly our brains were designed to keep us safe, right? Or that, that's right. I mean, we're designed to stay alive. So why were our brains designed with this internal resistance?
Yeah. So that's one part of the reason resistance comes up, because when I talk about I do internal resistance, the two main places people go to is fear, or they go to, oh, is it a protection thing? And I like to say that fear isn't the cause of resistance, it's a manifestation of resistance. So when we have fear, it's because there's resistance, and the brain uses fear to stop us from doing something. And as we'll get later into this conversation, you'll see that it's not just about protection. But before we go there, it really helps to kind of understand how this process works.
Sure.
So the part of the brain that creates wants and desires, it works separately from the part that actually allows us to act on that desire. Now, this is extremely important, so I'll say it one more time. The part of the brain that creates wants works independent of the part that actually allows us to act on that want. So
Okay.
we have one part of the brain that's creating wants, and in many ways is unrestrained. It was never meant to see if a want was achievable or worth going after. Its only job is to create wants. So in many ways, it's kind of unrestrained, cranking out endless wants one after another at a pace faster than anyone can achieve. And I know many people experience this, I want this and I want that, I don't have time for this and all of that. Well, it's because of this part of the brain. And then we have this other part of the brain, which are called resistance, that is designed to see if a want is worth going after or pursuing. And so, what's really key to note here is that it's possible for both the brain to create a desire for something and at the same time keep us from going after it. So, if people have experienced those moments where they want this thing, but they can't, or they want this other thing and they're kind of going back and forth, well, it's because that's what's actually happening inside their head. There's a want that's being created, and the want's not checking to see if it's safe, worth doing, fulfilling, and all of that. And then resistance going, oh, danger, or this isn't going to be fulfilling, and all of that. And this is
So if we
the,
put this into just real context, right? So I want $1 million,
yeah,
or I want six-pack abs, or I want to I want to live in a house on the ocean in
yeah,
California. So I have this list of
yeah,
wants. So
yeah,
my brain is going crazy having this list of wants.
yeah.
And then you're also saying, but I can have this crazy list, and some of it might not be crazy, but I've got this list, but the other part of my brain hasn't said, but here is how you do it. Or is this even attainable?
The other part of the brain is saying, we're not going after it. And the reason it does that is because every time we have a want, it gets filtered by this part of the brain using a whole host of criterias. And if the desire is not in line with any of the criterias, the brain will prevent action. So it really helps to think about standing before a panel of judges or board of directors. Every decision and desire that comes up has to go through them. And if even one of the members is against the idea, it will not pass. So the question is, what are the criteria the brain is going through?
Which
And
just wrote down. Yes, that is
yeah,
my question.
exactly. And in there's actually dozens of criterias, and they go into things like beliefs. So if we don't believe something is possible, of course the brain is like going to keep us from going after it. But there's more to beliefs than just thinking something's possible, because we could see something being possible, but if we have a deep down belief that it's not possible for us, that can also hold us back. And if our beliefs go even deeper than that, where we don't feel like we deserve something, so we can think something is possible and we can think it's possible for us, but there's a feeling of undeserving, then that will hold us back too. But then there's also habits. Habits are designed to keep us in a routine and pattern of behavior. And so if we've developed a habit that goes against what we're trying to do, our old habits will pull us back and create resistance. And then there's comfort zone. Comfort zone is a zone of comfort or knowing. So for some people, their brain likes the familiar over the unfamiliar. And even if the unfamiliar is going to provide positivity, the brain will still create resistance because it doesn't know. And so those are just three criteria, but these criteria go quite deep. They go into things like self-image, they go into things like core pains, they go into things like demographic. And so all of this is being processed, but unknowing to us, we don't notice any of it. And because we don't notice it, the natural assumption that comes up is I'm not good enough, I don't have what it takes, I'm lazy, I don't have motivation. When it's not that, it's all these cryptic things that are going on. And if we can hone in on that and see the inner workings, we can have a better idea of our resistance and it makes it easier to do that thing. Now, just to backtrack for one moment, you kind of talked about all these desires you were listing off: house at the beach, $1 million, all those things. Because the natural assumption is, well, why would my brain protect me from that? Well, if we don't have the belief that we can attain $1 million, of course the brain is not going to have us go after it. If we don't feel like we deserve it, wherever, no matter why the feelings of deserving got there, if it's there, it'll keep us from going after it. And these things create change. It means moving out of our comfort zone. For a person whose brain is familiar or likes the familiarity, even if it's painful, it will create resistance to something new, regardless of how great it is. But then it gets nuanced too, because remember I said it goes into self-image and things like that. I'll give some examples of what I mean by that. So a lot of times as we're growing up, we create a self-image of being a certain way. You know, some people create a self-image of being cool. Other people create a self-image of being studious. Other people will create a self-image of having this great story, or they're this great artist or whatever. But they won't study, apply themselves, or put themselves out there, because if things don't go well or they experience difficulty, they have to face the fact that they're not this great self-image they created for themselves. So it's easier for the brain to keep us from doing that thing so we can hold on to the self image than to do it and potentially prove it wrong. And in many ways, the self image is a survival thing. The brain actually believes we need to uphold that self image for survival. And it'll keep us from doing things that will damage that self image, including the things that our wanting mechanism is crazy. So that's another reason it can come up. An interesting reason for resistance that doesn't get talked about, but I think is really important and it really plays out, is a lot of people are still worried about the kids from their past. That is, people are still worried about what the kids that they grew up with are still thinking of them. And even though they don't talk to or see them, or they might even live in a completely different city, state, or country, a part of our brain is still wondering what they're thinking, and it's affecting our decisions here and now. And the more people have helped through resistance, the more this comes up. Anytime they want to do something, their brain wonders what that bully that made fun of them, the kids that laughed at them, or the girl that rejected them will think if they find out. And if the brain feels it won't be positive, it will hold us back. And again, it's a lot more common than people would think. And I can prove it because I know for a fact everyone listening here has memories of people from their past flash in their mind from time to time. And they might assume it's for nostalgic reasons, but it's actually to reinforce the walls in their life. They may have had a desire, and such a person flashes up, and they're like, nope, I don't want to do that. And they don't realize that that's what's happening. And so this resistant thing, it kind of gets pretty nuanced. It's there's a lot of stuff going on, and again, like I said, we don't notice the processing happening. We don't notice the decisions or the things that the brain is going through or the criteria that it's checking off to make the decisions. Oftentimes, we just find ourselves unable to do the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love all of the specific examples you gave about that criteria being that board of directors, because I
Yeah,
think that a lot of the listeners either have a board of directors or are on a board of directors
yeah,
or understand what that looks like. And so
Yeah.
thinking about, you have this want, and then standing before that board of directors, what a great way to illustrate that. I also love the fact that you're right, it is nuanced, because I think that it's a little more in vogue right now to talk about your limiting beliefs, or a
Yes.
lot of work has been done, research have been done, and books have been written about habits. And so
Yeah.
we're familiar with those things. So thinking about those limiting beliefs, those feelings, those habits, but even going deeper into that in terms of what are some of those past experiences that you've had,
Yeah.
and really kind of honing in on what some of those things might be. It makes me think, one, the first thing I think of is, oh my goodness, sometimes it's hard to change then, and how do we actually get to those dreams, but also gives me a better sense of um, giving ourselves at first a little bit of grace or forgiveness,
Yeah.
that just because we can't figure out how to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning when the alarm goes off to get to the gym because we want to, have those six-pack abs, um,
Yeah.
that there's so much more into that. So first taking that deep breath and giving ourselves that grace. But if we find ourselves, Cam, like we're in this situation, and so we are thinking, or yes, agree with what you're saying. I'm sitting here listening in my car. I'm like
Yeah.
someplace listening to this podcast. And I'm like, yeah, hello, me. Yes, I have these wants and desires, and I can't figure out how to get there. What are some of the tools or ways in which you help people kind of break through that internal resistance?
Yeah. So when I do one-on-one work, I actually developed a method which I call the Kam Knight method, that where I can guide people into their unconscious, and we can find their exact internal resistance and release it. And it's one of the most direct and efficient ways to do it. And the reason I say that is because, again, when we go to personal development, they'll throw out a lot of buzzwords like beliefs and comfort zones and habits. In fact, when I started talking about some of the criterias, those were some of the first ones I mentioned, and I even said the commonly known causes of resistance. And so when we can kind of put that to the side and stop looking at just cookie cutter possibilities and can go directly at what the real cause is, it makes it much easier to move through. But this is obviously one-on-one work, and if a person wants to do it themselves, they need a different approach. So I have tools for that. And there's many ways to, one, access our resistance or figure out what's causing it, as well as move past it. And I usually like to start with and talk about self-talk. I don't know if you've heard of self-talk, but I'll quickly define it and go into why it's so important. Self-talk are statements that you say or repeat to yourself of the changes that you want to have or have happen. For example, if I want to start getting up earlier in the morning, I would repeat a statement like, I quickly jump out of bed and start my morning routine. In fact, the self talk I use to help me get out of bed is, I quickly jump into and complete all the items in my morning routine every morning. So, why is self talk so important? One, it gives you a lot of data about what's going on in your unconscious. Because when a person first starts speaking a statement like, I am healthy and fit, or I exercise regularly, in the beginning, the brain is going to react and respond to that statement. It might say things like, no, you're not healthy at all. Or think about how much time it's going to take to do this. Or what happens if we become healthy and we start getting a lot of attention? Because some people are averse to people. So that's one of the reasons resistance comes up is some people are more sensitive to the thoughts, judgments of others. And the more it will bring attention to them, their task or activity, the more resistance there will be. So if they start feeling the sense of like, oh wow, what if people get to notice me or see me more? And then now I have to whatever. All those reactions are data about your resistance. It's telling you why you have the resistance. So we can get very quick, accurate data just by taking a goal, turning it into a self talk statement, and then seeing how our mind responds. I'll give another example. So let's say if a person wants to improve their memory, they can go out and read a bunch of books and all of that. But if they just create a statement of the outcome they're seeking when they're looking for that memory, let's say it's I have an excellent memory. I easily remember names, dates, facts, presentations, podcasts, and more. In fact, those are two statements I repeat every day. Once I start repeating it, my mind will start reacting, saying, well, you're not smart. Remember in grade school, you didn't do well? Well, now you have data that my brain believes that I can't have a good memory. So that's a belief that will get in the way. Or it might say, oh, this is going to be very difficult. So now I'm getting more data. The unconscious feels there's going to be a challenge to it. So now it's creating resistance because of that. So to answer your question, how can we kind of get information about our resistance? This is one of the easiest and fastest way to do it. Now, how can we push past it with self-talk as well? Because yes, in the beginning, when we start repeating the statements, it creates like all sorts of triggers and unpleasant feelings like this isn't going to work and all of that. But if we keep repeating it, the more we get those resistance out. And if we continue repeating it, it actually starts rewiring our brain to act out the statements. So if a person wants the fastest way to overcome resistance is to create statements of the outcome they want and to repeat it regularly. In fact, I have all sorts of statements that I repeat throughout the day. I have a set of statements for in the morning. I have a set of statements in the evening. I have statements that I will do if I'm driving and things like that. And it's one of the best ways I've found to help me get through resistance. And
Yeah,
why do I start with self-talk?
oh, sorry.
Go
Yeah, so
ahead.
no, I have
No,
a
no,
couple of
no.
questions though about self-talk before if you were going to move on. So I love it. I mean, I think it is so powerful and it's so
Yeah,
interesting the similarities and the synergies because I talk about the same thing when I talk about coaching Joy,
yeah,
that saying those, having those statements, having like looking for it, saying that, having those, you know, we can call it self-talk or mantra or whatever the words are, but having those things are powerful. So I am with you on that.
yeah,
I'm curious, you did say that you use them kind of throughout the day, so that was one of my questions. Are there the two that I have, that are you writing them down as well, so or is it just spoken? And do you have a suggestion about how many statements that people have? Is it the more the better, or only having a couple? So
yeah,
those are a couple questions that I wrote down as
yeah.
you were talking.
Those are fantastic questions. And before I answer them, I want to talk about why self-talk is really important to start with, because there are other tools, and we can get into that a little bit later down the conversation. It's because, one, when we're dealing with resistance, we have to take a very different approach to other advice. So when we're talking about A-type personalities and high performers, we can give them the advice that's gonna take give them the maximum results, right? Because they're action takers, they're doers, and if you give them something, they're gonna do it. But when a person has resistance, they have a hard time doing things. So what we want to do is focus on the littlest things that have the biggest outcome, little changes that can lead to the biggest results. And I personally believe in my 20 years doing this, this is the simplest thing a person can do. It's literally just talking. And you
Mhm.
can do it while laying down. You can do it before going to sleep. You could do it in the shower. So that's one reason. But the other reason is to create change. We don't just need to do something once or twice. We have to do it consistently. And it's easier to do simple things consistently. It's easier to show up for something that's simple day in and day out. And so this goes back to the saying, it's the simple things that get the result. And it comes down to it's because it's the easiest to do on a regular
Mhm.
basis. Now, to answer your question, one was, What was the first one?
Well, so do you write it? Do you write them down, or is
Okay.
it something? And then I have a sec. I'm going to add a B statement to that. When do you say them out loud, or are you just saying them in your mind? Those are
Okay,
the
so
two
this is
parts.
the best question you can ask around self-talk. So I use the word self-talk very intentionally. I didn't use the word affirmations because on the surface it seemed the same way, but self-talking is the talking of it. So a lot of times people assume that you write it down or you put it on the mirror in the bathroom and you look at it. And all those things help, but the talking of it helps the most.
Mm.
And you can talk it in your head or out loud, but out loud is better. So I say it's better, meaning if you're in a place where you can't say it out loud, it's okay to say it in your head. So when I'm waiting in line at the grocery store, I'm still self talking, but I'm doing it in my head. But when I'm in the car and no one's in the car, I'll do it out loud. So there are levels to it. So it's not like either or, it's you can start one level, and then if you want to get more results, you get the other level. So the first level would be just looking at the statement. The second level would be writing the statements. The third would be speaking the statement. The fourth would be speaking it out loud. The fifth would be speaking it with belief. And the sixth would be speaking it out loud with belief and emotions. Now, not everyone can get to that level. And even with some of the self talk I do now, I don't usually do it with emotion, even though I know it's important. But at least I do it, and that still gets me results. So, a very good question. And as far as how many statements, it's easy to overwhelm ourselves with too many statements. Because when we start something, it's easy to do even difficult things a few times. And when we do it a few times, we feel like we can do it regularly forever. But
Mm.
that's just not the case. In fact, some people struggle with just doing four statements regularly. What I recommend is people do create about 8 to 12 statements that they could do regularly. But if that's too much, tone it down. For me, since I've been doing it for as long as I have, and since I preach self talk and I already am motivated to do it anyways, I have a lot of statements. I mean, I have dozens and dozens and dozens of statements for different areas that I want to work on. I do social dancing. I have a whole set of statements to improve my social dancing. I rock climb. I have the morning routine. I have different things. And I've created statements that describe the outcome I want
Mm.
in all of those things. And I'm finding ways to repeat it throughout the day. But I'm on a higher level. So I wouldn't recommend starting that way because it's too much of a change. Start simple. A person can just start by saying something like, I repeat positive self talk every day. And
Oh,
that'll,
that's a great one. I love that. And I love the fact, Cam, that you are, because I love language as well. So I love the specificity or the precision
yeah,
in that. So I just want to make sure that we're repeating that as well, that it is self-talk. So
yeah,
I know I said something about mantras and affirmations, but self-talk, that is your first tip for
mhm,
everyone if they as they are not if but as they are working through this internal resistance. Can you talk us through? Again, you had 6 levels, I think 6 or 7 levels. So,
yeah,
in terms of growth, because I also appreciate the fact that those of you who are listening, that maybe this is brand new to you, maybe it's not, or maybe
yeah,
you're doing some mantras or some affirmations, or you're reading them, or you're putting them on that post-it note on your bathroom mirror, but we are walking through. So, if I'm brand new to self-talk, I know that I don't have to start up here at level 6
yeah,
or level 7. I can start down at number 1. So can you just walk us through what those levels of growth are
yeah,
with self-talk?
yeah. So the first level is looking at the statements.
So
So,
that's reading it, like finding like I can go to your website or I can go someplace and or I can go to some book or something and I'm reading it like somebody else's affirmation or somebody else's statement that they wrote.
yeah.
Okay.
Or even your own. You can create statements and you put in the mirror and you have that post-it on the mirror or in the fridge or on your desk. So when you walk by and you see it and you read it, so that's the reading of it. And that's helpful. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, but there's something better. The next step is writing it. So I know people who every morning write the statements that they want to transpire. And that's good too. And the third level is speaking it. and you can do it in your head or out loud. And again, if a person is around other people and they don't want them to know that they're doing self-talk because it's not socially, looked at as a positive thing, you just do it in your head. Like I literally have a set of statements that is designed for me to do in my head when I'm in a public place.
Mm.
Yeah. And but it's better to do it out loud. So that's a fourth level. And I didn't realize the importance of the belief and emotions until much later on when I was self talking for a while, but I just wasn't getting like the results that I wanted or the consistent results. And I came across people talking about the importance of adding feeling to it and the belief. And when I did that, that was like rocket fuel. But it's hard because if you don't have good feelings about yourself, if you feel limiting and things won't work and just down, it's hard to call up that energy to do the self talk. And that could be enough for a person to not want to start or even continue. But I want people to know that it's okay as long as you're saying it, even if you don't believe it, because self talk doesn't need belief to see results. And so once you get started saying it and it becomes easier to say it, then you add the next level of it being something you do believe, and then you do add it to positive emotion. Now, I know a lot of times people say you got to scream your goals out at the top of your lungs and things like that. I'm not of that mindset. I don't think you have to do it with so much energy and charge. It's possible to say self talk with belief and feelings without it being so overt and so extreme. You know what I'm saying? So, normally, I would just say, I'm going to give a self talk statement specifically designed for internal resistance. And it's, I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away. And I'll tell you people why that self talk is so important. But when I first started saying it, I would say it usually even with anger, like I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away. But then just shifting it with belief and feelings, you notice there's not much of a shift when I say it. It's like, I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away. So it doesn't have to be extreme when we're adding beliefs
Mm.
and emotions. Now, this statement is took me over 15 years traveling to 100 countries to narrow it down to, and why it's so powerful in helping us overcome resistance. I'm a do it now person creates an identity that we're a person that does things now. So when a want and desire comes up, it filters through resistance, and resistance goes, well, my identity is I do things now. So it makes it easier to do things. Now, here's the thing, it's not always comfortable and easy to do things because for some people, it's actually awkward and painful. And that's a very thing that creates resistance. So the next statement, I easily do things now, helps to ease the pain of doing things. So we can do it in a more enjoyable way. But there's also a challenge to doing things because we can do a lot of things and spin in circles. And a lot of people experience that. So the last statement, I easily accomplish my goals right away, helps the brain hone in on specific goals and targets when we are doing things. So I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away. If they just took that statement and repeated it every day, they would have huge shifts in their ability to do things.
I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away.
Yep.
All right, I am adding that, Kam. I am adding that to my self-talk. I haven't called it self-talk before, but I am going to start to call it self-talk because that is actually what I am doing. I just hadn't labeled it that way, but I'm adding that. I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away.
All right, say it again.
I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away.
Okay, again.
I am a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away.
And one more time.
I am a do it now
Uh,
person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away.
yeah. So what I was doing was just trying to help create habits in you because if you just repeat it enough now, it becomes easier to do it later. So yeah,
Yes, I love it. And again, those of you listening, that is something that is really important. So even that exercise of what Cam just took me through, yes. And I felt, I don't know if you could hear it, but I
yeah,
felt the change in emotion, not just because I was more easily reading what I was had written down, but
yeah.
because I actually was feeling it towards the third or fourth time that I said it out loud. There
Okay,
was in that progression, um, I believed it,
yeah.
but
Because the
I
first
was
couple
having
of
more
times,
feeling of that too. So, right.
yeah, the first couple of times there's resistance, but the more we say it, the more that clears and it becomes easier to say. Now imagine in 30 days from now, it'll become even easier, where it just rolls off your tongue. Like, I mean, I can give you tons of examples of self-talk that I do now. For example, when I first wanted to start talking about my concepts and things I write about, I had a lot of challenges because I was never a communicator or I didn't really talk well. I stuttered, I stammered. It was really hard to get thoughts out of my head. And because of all of those challenges, I, for a long time, kind of held myself back. So I got really good in the written word, um, communicating um, in text, but I wasn't so good in speaking. So what did I do? I created some self-talk. I'm an excellent communicator. I easily communicate my thoughts, ideas, feelings, experiences, and more. I can write about and verbalize anything. I'm never at a loss for words because the right words come to me quickly and easily. Now, I can't say that I am the most eloquent speaker and the right words always come out because if somebody were to go back to this podcast and really dissect it, there are times I said uhs and ums and I paused to figure out the word. But I am far better than when I started. And what was really great is I didn't have to go take classes and read books and do all these exercises to improve my skills. All I did was repeat the statements. And this is a really great point to make is a lot of times we're going out and putting all this time and effort to develop a behavior or an ability when we can shortcut the entire process and just create a statement or a couple of statements of the outcome we're seeking and repeat that. And over time, not only does it help us show have those behaviors come out, but we naturally get motivated to learn the things that we need to have that behavior become reality. So let's say, for example, I'm repeating these statements of I'm an excellent communicator. There were multiple moments where I had this drive to just learn new words because my mind believed if I knew more words, I could speak more eloquently. Prior to that, that drive wasn't there. But because I was speaking the words, the brain was trying to figure out how I can make that happen. And opportunities start showing up, things you didn't notice become more apparent that can help you get there. So it's actually quite magical.
Yeah, I believe that because and I think again, bringing that back to some of the things that I coach with as well, is that we are, just like you said, you are training your brain to get to that belief and
Yeah.
feeling level, but you're also training your brain to say, okay, these are the things that I want to notice. Because, right,
Yes.
and you know, I'm sure that our brains are filtering so much information,
So
and we
much.
could barely, I mean, there's no way that we could actually function as a human being if our brains weren't filtering. So
Yeah.
if we tell our brains, right, and that's what we're doing, I believe what you're saying through this self-talk is that we are telling our brains to filter the pieces of information that support those statements.
Yep.
So some of that as well is that it's, it is a little bit magical, but it's really that we were telling our brains to filter these things. So when you said the opportunities then arise, the opportunities were probably always there for you
Yeah.
to learn how to be a more eloquent speaker. However, you have said to your brain, filter the
Yeah.
information, filter the opportunities. I like to talk about filter the joy moments, filter those
Yes.
things so that I see them and so that we can experience them. So whether
Yeah.
you're experiencing joy or whether you're experiencing opportunities to be a better speaker, that's, I mean, we're
Yeah.
just we're just brainwashing ourselves, right? So let's
Yeah.
brainwash ourselves for things that we want rather than for the things that we don't want.
Exactly. 100%. It's all about filtering. And yes, we're receiving so many millions of bits of data. So it does help to give our brain what to filter on. But another thing that we're filtering is our wants. Because remember, I said the part of the brain that creates wants is unrestrained, and it's creating endless wants and desires. In fact, even if you lived multiple lives, you couldn't achieve, let alone find enjoyable, all the wants your brain is producing in a single month or even in a single week. That's how many wants we have. And so when we're creating these statements, we're actually helping the brain filter which wants to go after. We could be watching television, we could be out going to the game, or we could be doing a bunch of other stuff. And a lot of times the brain doesn't do things because there's too many things to do. But when we do really hone in on exactly what we want, it's easier to get there. And self talk is a great way because when you think about it, what I'm actually asking you people to do is take their goals and turn it into a statement and just repeat that statement. Yeah.
Oh, that is a really good way of framing that as well, Cam, to say really what we're doing is saying, okay, you told me about all these goals or you have these things, so you know what they are, but now let's speak them in. I mean, it's
To
kind of like
exist.
we're speaking them into reality, right? We're
Yeah.
speaking them, but we don't even have to go that woo woo into saying we're speaking them into reality, we're manifesting them.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, perhaps we could say it that way, but what you're saying in a really concrete way
Yeah.
is you have these goals. Okay, let's make them happen. And the first step in making them happen is to speak them out loud.
Yeah.
Put them in a self-talk statement.
Yeah.
And I did notice too, as you were saying these things, it is all about I
Yeah.
am someone who does this.
Yeah.
You're speaking them as they are already true.
Yeah.
Because what I heard you say too is you don't quite have to believe them today, but the more you say them, your brain will start to believe them,
Yeah.
and then you will get to that where you consciously believe it, but your brain starts to hear that, filters all that information. So really take a look at your goals and then create these statements that
Yeah.
support those goals.
Yeah. And I think exactly that's 100% what I'm saying. So you definitely picked up what I was communicating. So I must be an excellent communicator.
Right,
Uh,
we're reinforcing that, Cam. We're reinforcing
yeah.
that today. Absolutely.
Yeah. If we can add to it, maybe we can talk a little bit about goals because
Sure.
I think goals are really important because it does help filter for the brain what to go after. Because, like I said, we have a lot of desires, but if we can pick a few, our brain is going to be, it's going to make it easier for the brain to know which ones to go after. This is why you hear that saying, if you write a goal down, you're like 80% more likely to achieve it. And it happens because you're essentially just filtering it. Now, the way most people set goals isn't very functional or helpful because they'll say what they want. And if we can take it a few steps more and get to what we need to do to get it, that'll help the brain even further. So let's say I have a goal of becoming healthy and fit, and I write it down. That helps the brain, it helps us filter, that lets the
Mm-hmm.
brain know what it is we want. But there's still some confusion, like what are we gonna do? Like how are we gonna get there? And sure, the brain can figure it out. But what if we did it for it? Okay, so I want to get healthy and fit. How am I going to do that? Is I want to start running. So we get more specific. I'm going to start running, and we want something that's going to be achievable. Like if we've never run before, we're not going to set a goal for running a marathon, but maybe set a goal to run a mile. All right. So how do we get to that mile? Well, I'm gonna jog 15 minutes 3 times a day. Boom. That's our goal now. And now we just repeat that as a self-talk statement. I I run 15 minutes a day, 3 times a day. And we repeat that over and over. And that helps us get to the bigger goal of getting healthy and fit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is taking that larger goal, but not just as a goal, we have to have actions because our bodies don't live in this like whatever state. Our bodies do things. We are action
Yeah,
beings. So we have to do something. So it's not just, I want to get healthy and fit. That's great, right? That's great. But
that's great.
that also looks, what it brings me to is it looks different for everyone. So you can say, I want to be healthy and fit, so for you that is running, and for you that means okay, every day I'm going to get up and run for 15 minutes, and then you create that into a statement. For someone else, we have the same goal, healthy and
Yeah,
fit. That could mean I want to go
swimming.
to the gym. The only time I can get to the gym to lift weights is in the morning. So my next step is I'm the person that gets up at 5 a.m. in the morning and goes to the gym. And
Yeah.
then I,
Or we can cut the I'm a person out and say, I get up 5 in the morning. I get up 5 a.m. in the morning and go to the gym to work out. Or we can say something like, I get up 5 in the morning every day to go to the gym and work out to make
yeah.
sure that the brain knows it's a daily thing or whatever time frame you want to put. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So you have this goal, and then that is how, and you can write, you can have that goal even written, but you need to get to that self-talk statement so
Yeah.
that you are telling your brain, this is what we are going to do.
Yeah.
And then your brain will help you do it, right? Because then
Yeah.
your brain is like, oh, okay, the alarm went off. We are getting up to go to the gym. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that we're going so deep into self-talk because I don't get a chance to do that much. And I'll add one more thing to it, which is different statements will take different length of time to get comfortable saying, internalize, and start seeing results. So there's some statements that are going to be really far out of reach for where you're going. So I'll give an example. I had really poor beliefs and poor views of myself. So when I would create statements about doing things, I found myself doing it a lot sooner than changing my views of myself. So I had believed like I'm a worthy, secure, deserving, loving man. That took a lot longer for me to get comfortable saying. And it took a lot longer for it to start internalizing and to start feeling it. But when I would say something like, I'm a do it now person, I easily do things now, I found myself acting that out a lot sooner. And it could be different for different people. Maybe for some people, it will take longer to internalize the action of things, but they could change the feelings a lot quicker. So the reason I'm saying that is because it's easier to start the self talk and not see any results and then give up. And with self talk, like you said, it's magical. Sometimes it's like magic. You'll say it a few times and like things just shift. But other things, you could be saying it for a few months and nothing move. But that's okay. You just keep saying it until it does move.
Oh, I like that. I like that as well. So I hear consistency because you had said that before too. Consistency is so important,
It's
right?
100%.
And yeah, it's everything, right? I mean, we just have to continue to keep doing it and giving ourselves, going back to giving ourselves the grace of you don't have to believe it, but you still have to continue to do,
Say
or
it.
you should say it, and it will happen. I mean, that is how the universe works. That's how
Yeah.
energy works. That's how our brains work.
Yeah.
But we have to and I sometimes tell clients this too. You can do this, but you have to let go of the timeline because we're not
Yeah.
always in control of the timeline, right? So you can have the thing, and we can do this, but and you can do the actions, and you have to let the universe be in control
Yeah.
of the timeline.
Yeah. And that's one of the most important things a person can learn because a lot of times, especially, when we're selling something, we're trying to give the end result. And good marketing, or not good marketing, but marketing is always trying to make it seem like it's going to come quick and it's going to be easy. That's how they get people enticed into the product or service that they're selling. And oftentimes we can get hung up on the when it's going to happen and the expectations of it happening sooner than later. And sometimes we do got to let that go. And there's a really important reason why. Remember, I said that our own wants can create challenges to getting our wants? So, what I found is there's multiple challenges our wants can create. And one of them is what I call a strong want. So, a strong want is a strong desire for something. In personal development, you talk about a burning desire. And oftentimes, coaches and experts talk about why it's important. And I like to veer from that thinking because when our wants grow, so does our resistance. A great analogy for this is Einstein's theory of relativity. One of Einstein's theories, the theory of special relativity, says that space and time are not separate. The three dimensions of space, up, down, north, south, east, west, as well as time, they're actually one and the same. It's kind of hard to imagine, but it's actually the same fabric. And in many ways, our wants and resistance are one and the same. It's the same fabric. So when our wants grow, so does our resistance. And our resistance growing makes our wants grow even more. And that in turn makes our resistance grow even further. And very quickly, this becomes this feedback loop or runaway process where now we want this thing really bad and can't have it really bad. And I know for a fact, everyone listening here has had moments where they wanted something really bad and things weren't moving for them. And as soon as they let it go, things began to fall into place. So, this is another reason why it helps to let go of the time, because the more we get hung up on the time, the more it actually makes the resistance stronger and it makes it harder to go after that thing. And I don't know what it is, but also it's like a universal thing where the universe doesn't like to feed the hungry. The more we want something and the quicker we want it, the harder and more strained it gets. So if we can just kind of let it go and allow, sometimes that usually ends up being the best option. Easier said than done, because even though I understand this, I still struggle with it. But this, I said it to help people understand why sometimes it does help to let go of when and how it should show up and just let the statements work.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I mean, seriously, and I live this, and I actually wrote about this. I just am now joining your ranks and just became an author as well. But one of the things that I wrote in my book too is once I let go of, and I was letting go of wanting a partner. So I let go of wanting a partner and said it, and finally said it. I called the universe God. So once I finally was able to clearly, and I said it out loud to someone else that I was finally ready to let go. 2 weeks later, I met the person that I'm going to marry this summer. So I mean,
Yeah,
it was like magic, but it was exactly what you just said. Is once I stopped fighting, once I let go, released that want,
yeah,
the resistance like
lowers.
lowers, and I then was able to see the opportunity that was presented,
Yeah,
and not like that person wouldn't have been there before. He was there all the time, but it was
yeah,
just one specific example of how
yeah,
much I believe in what you're saying.
yeah,
And honestly, Cam, this has been a delightful conversation, and I feel like there is so much more, and I feel like you should be
yeah,
one of these repeat guests on here because I think there's
yeah,
so much. The language that we use is so similar, yet coming at things from different perspective, but all of the same things about the self-talk, about the, I call it
mm,
surrender, about that leads us to this, is us to lowering resistance, allows us to bring that
yeah,
joy into our lives. So two questions. One, would love to know if you had a parting thought kind of to, for part one, I'm going to call it part one. If you have a like parting thought to the listeners about what you want for them or what you wanted really them to hear for this first piece of it. And
yeah.
then if they want more right away before we can get on a second podcast, how can they find you?
Okay, perfect. So, before we started, I was saying people really love this topic, and most podcast hosts have asked me to actually come back. So, I'd love to hear that you do as well. It lets me know that I'm on a good track. the parting thought I usually like to leave with is letting people know wanting doesn't equate to having. Just because we want something doesn't mean we'll take the necessary steps to go after it. And unfortunately, our wants can give the illusion that yes, it will happen. Because when our brain triggers a want, it oftentimes triggers it with these really intense, positive, and euphoric feelings, where you can feel like, yes, I can attain it, I can do it. It's like it's at my grasp. But once those feelings fade, we're still stuck because we didn't address the resistance. So I want people to know that just because you have a want for something doesn't mean you'll actually take the necessary steps to be able to go after it. And it's because you have this part called resistance, and it's going to throw roadblocks on the way. And if we're not aware of the roadblocks, when they come up, we get derailed really easily. But if we can be aware that they're going to come up, when they do, we're not derailed and we can take another course of action. So that's what I want to leave for them. And then for everyone, I'm gonna share a couple of free gifts, some of my offers. So I've got 3 free gifts for everyone listening here. The first one is called Prompt Engineering for Your Mind. The human brain was the original ChatGPT, and you can prompt it to give you answers and solutions. But unlike ChatGPT, have you take answer or action on those answers and solutions. So another way we can take action. And that's the first guide. The second guide is Build Skills and Habits in Your Sleep. It teaches you how to use self-talk to build the habits that we're seeking. And the third guide is a deeper dive into this topic of resistance. And they can get all 3 at my website at kamknight.com. I've got a course called Conquer Internal Resistance that is one of the best dives into what's going on for a person and the blocks that's keeping them from moving forward and how to actually make sustainable progress. They can get it at kamknight.com. And then if anybody wants to do that one-on-one work with me, where I take them into their unconscious, it's not NLP or hypnosis. It's a method I spent 20 years developing, which is the fastest, most direct way to move past the resistance. They can reach out to me at coach@kamknight.com.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for those lovely gifts. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I hope that everyone is listening, taking notes. You might need to re-listen, take some
Yeah.
more notes. I will put that all the contact information in the show notes so that you have that. And I wish for everyone really that you come up with your self-talk statements. And if you come up
Yeah.
with some good ones and want to share, or just want to share how this has impacted, be sure to follow the show. Be sure to leave us a message. And again, Rachel from Joy Unfiltered, from my heart to yours, I am celebrating you today and every day. So have fun, live well, enjoy.